Bell.
Vote on accepting the resolution.
Here, thank you. And then you let them do their thing. If you don't like it, then you take somebody else.
That's why I think I wrote it. That's why I wrote it. It's good though, when you have a- You also need to negotiate.
If anyone plans on speaking this evening, on the last table with the gentleman with the laptop, please sign in with your name and address. That's for the record. And if you're not sure if you're going to speak and you end up speaking, afterwards, please sign in. All right?
So we can speak before we sign in?
You can, but if you know you're going to speak, please sign in. Also, if you're going to speak this evening, your time to speak is going to be during public appeals. Once public appeals is finished and we go into the agenda, you will not be able to participate in discussion once we get to that topic. That was what the public forum was for 2 weeks ago.
But can you repeat that for the Zoom people? I didn't get all of
I can repeat it when we start the meeting.
How are we doing with YouTube? What do you got?
We're good. We got five people on.
Guess we answered the questions too.
Recording in progress.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the Maze Program meeting. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, at this time we'll have public appeals part 1. If anyone has a public appeal, including for the PFAS water treatment, now is the time to do it. Once we get into the agenda and council gets to that topic, public input will not be taken. We did that at the public meeting 2 weeks ago. So if you have any questions or input, public appeals time is now. And just sign your name or state your name and your address, and you have 5 minutes for your appeal. Sure. Just state your name and your address, please.
Jack Notamaker, 303 Franklin Street. Okay, so I missed the meeting a month ago when I understand there was a discussion about the parking of the students in our borough, and I had learned that apparently in that discussion they decided to extend the permit parking further away from the school. Is that correct?
Correct. And there's a map of it.
Okay, so I live on Franklin Street, and I know the northern part of Franklin is a bit worse, but now it's getting worse on North Street up to the Lions Playground. It's like bumper-to-bumper cars, and also on my block. And I don't know what the decisions were, but I have a feeling that when they extend the parking, which I don't know whether it was another 2 blocks or another block or what, the kids are going to drive as close as they can get to the school and walk so they don't have to ride on a bus.
Mr. Namaker, we know that this is not the last time we'll visit this. They're probably.
I can't hear real good, so.
We realize this will not be the last time we visit this. There's going to be a point where they're not going to walk X amount of distance, but we know at some neighborhood's going to take the brunt of this, and we're going to have to extend it even further.
Right. So, my suggestion that I wanted to make is that I know you can't control what the school does, but I understand that they have some kind of lottery that is for the seniors to park in the parking lot that's designated for the school. And a few days that I drove through that parking lot, there were in excess, and this was in the middle before lunch between 10 and 12, there was an estimated of 100 empty spaces in that parking lot.
Today?
100.
Today?
I didn't go today. This was a couple weeks ago. A couple times I went there. Now there are going to be a lot less cars parking there because the seniors are near the end of their school or whatever. So like I said, we can't tell the school what to do, but I don't understand why it has to be a lottery and for seniors only, which forces the underclassmen to park on our borough streets. That's one thing. The next thing is, and there's probably a good reason for it, but I don't understand why these students can't park on North Street on both sides of the street except for the entrances and the fire hydrant that obviously they need access to. The speed limit during school hours is 15 for 2 hours or something. And then other than that, it's always 25. So when you have a wide street like that, it seems to me that people have a tendency to want to go faster than the speed limit. But if there were cars parked up and down both sides of that street while the school was in operation, it seems like it would be forcing the drivers to drive slower, which is what we want. So I know that the borough is the one that designates the no parking on both sides, and I don't know if it has anything to do with fire access to the school if something happens, but if you count the spaces on North Street on both sides, you would eliminate probably the parking that we're dealing with on Franklin Street now. And also, I think they could park on Macungie Avenue from where the U thing comes out down to the corner within a certain distance. And it seems like they could find enough parking for these kids that would be right at the school. And and like I said before, we can't tell the school, but it seems like it should be first come, first served to park. You know, and if the seniors have a lottery and they get a parking space and they don't come to school ever, then those parking spots, like I said, 100 of them on one particular day, it just doesn't seem right. So I just was trying to save the borough money by having to go out and put permit-only parking signs. That costs money, and also, I don't even know how that program works, but if people come to visit me during the day, then, or stay for the day, or like if my daughter comes in from out of town, and, well, I have off-street parking, so it's not a big deal to me, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that are gonna have to worry about their guests having permits to park. So that's all I wanted to say, and if it's possible to address those situations, that would be great. I don't know whether they'll work or not.
Mr. Nymaker, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
So the first issue you brought up is a school board issue. Unfortunately, you don't have to address them because their parking on their property is totally their issue.
Which I said, right?
Right, so you need to address them.
And we have, by the way, we have been in conversation.
With them.
Yeah.
About the parking
Yeah.
on the borough streets?
And in their parking lot.
Oh, okay.
But again, that's, at the end of the day,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah, they can do what they want, I understand that, it's their parking space, so.
And with regards to parking on North Street, I believe it's because it's a school zone. Is that why? It can't be done because it's a school zone
It's a school zone,
for parking.
oh, so you can't park on that street because it's a school
zone.
zone? All right. So that wipes that idea out, right?
I mean, we've been addressing this for 15
Yeah.
years. It's not something new. It's just going out further. That's all, unfortunately.
Who's responsible for the blinking yellow lights that says school?
The borough.
Okay. I think someone from the borough has to be more diligent in getting the timer on that thing right. Because that light blinks on the weekends,
Okay.
and it doesn't blink when the school time says it does. So someone has to set the
We
timer.
can look at that. Thank you, Mr. Nonamaker.
Okay.
Is there anyone else with a public appeal?
Hi, my name is Jason Parrish. I live at 723 Lawrence Drive. And I wanted to just speak to you guys briefly today about the Laura Street Park. I live right across from that park, and I have for 10 plus years. I've been taking my kids to there. All the neighborhood kids enjoy that park. So I was truly devastated, really hurt to find out last week that that entire park was bulldozed. It was bulldozed without any notice, no text, no emails, no surveys, no consultation to the neighborhood that it actually serves. When my wife spoke to the workers that were there doing the destruction, that they expressed that that the borough believed that park was not used, and any further from the truth. It was used frequently. Now I understand that the park was deteriorating and that vandalism was a serious problem there. But from our understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there is no current plans to replace that park. It was simply bulldoze and then move on. So we're interested to know if there's plans to replace it, if there's some matter of funding that needs to be raised, something that we can do to organize and help get the park back, because it's just a true blow for us, especially with school just letting out. Like I said, like the park is used constantly.
So we do know the park is used, so I don't know where that statement came from, but it didn't come from the borough. And I know for a fact that if we ever remove equipment in the borough from a playground or a park, it's because of safety issues. I don't know the background on this, but
I do.
Shane can address it.
First of all, Mr. Parrish, thank you for expressing your concern here. I know, and we are aware that the Laura Street Park is a very important part of the community. We were called out because a neighbor had issued a concern about the repeated vandalism that occurred at the park, and I'm sure since you live there, you know what that vandalism is.
Yes.
And we had addressed that vandalism just a few months ago before it happened again. But when our inspectors went out there, the issue wasn't about the vandalism anymore, it was about the safety of the equipment. The equipment is extremely unsafe. It was rotted, it doesn't meet code. Actually, it's at a point where it's more dangerous to leave it up than it is to take it down. So the decision was, since we know about it, we're aware that it's rotted, that it's not safe, we have to remove it. They spoke incorrectly when they said about it not being used. They should have never said that. They had no business saying that, and I would love to know who said it. But nonetheless, when they said that the borough has no plan, they are semi-correct. We did not budget to remove that playground this year. It wasn't a plan. It was, we go out there, we said, oh, what do we do, right? We have to remove it. What I'll be doing is presenting a plan in September to Borough Council for next budget season of a replacement plan for at least some of that equipment. And we will design that as age-appropriate equipment too. So we'll try to do a 5 to 12-year-old kind of range, what we could put in there. We do have a park study that addresses some of that, of what could go in there. we will be asking Borough Council for funding for next budget season. We did not budget funds for this year for that part. That doesn't mean council couldn't re-examine budget and take from another need in the community to reallocate it. They could do that, but it's taking from one thing to put to another is going to be their challenge, and what that would be, I don't know. But right now, the plan would be that we're going to present a plan to them in September for funding for next year.
I just have 2 follow-up questions. What was the reasoning for not notifying the surrounding community that this was even going to occur? And when is the plan for a new park to be built? Because from my understanding, this has happened before in another part of the community, and it was 4+ years before new construction is even started. Now, I know there's a lot of planning that goes on for that stuff. You have to do some bidding, you have to do consultation and everything. It's just, if the motions aren't being made now, what even thought for, like, it could be, I don't want my kids going off and getting married and now the new park is there. Like, I still think there needs to be a park. I think it's an important part of any community to do. You have green space, you want kids to go out and play, you don't want them to be aimless. So I just want to know if there's a strategy going forward.
So first of all, the first question that you asked about why didn't we do a survey, it was an emergency removal. It needs to be removed now. We actually consulted with our own consultants about that. We were told, you know about it now, remove it now. So should we have probably notified the community? Sure, absolutely we should have. However, their priority was removing what they knowingly knew at that point, and that's what it was unsafe. As far as a plan moving forward, I surely hope it's not going to take 4 years. I will tell you that in the last couple of years, Borough Council has prioritized funding for Parks and Recreation. We just spent a lot of money on a study. We've also dedicated and allocated a lot of money to construction projects this year and next year. Lion Street Playground is going to receive $700,000 in upgrades. We received a large grant for that. And we also have money allocated to do some improvements at Furnace Dam this year as well. I will tell you in the past, that wasn't necessarily a priority of funding, because it was always, we would put money in, but there were other needs as well, and so council's faced with prioritizing things. I would tell you that I would think for next year, I can't speak for them, but I would think that the fact that Laura Street, had all the equipment removed, I would think that that's going to be something where they put towards the top of their list for funding next year. I can't speak to that at this point.
But September, are you thinking that's the...
Well, so we decide, I present the Borough Council in October. We start giving them the information in September. They finalize the budget right around November, very beginning of December. We start having budget workshops at the end of October, and those are public meetings. And you can certainly attend those public meetings and express, what you think should go in there. You can also email me, call my office if you have ideas, if your family has ideas. While we're kind of in the planning stages, if you want to see a swing set or a jungle gym or none of the above, that feedback would be good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to say something real quick.
Oh, yeah, our Public Works Chairwoman would like to say a few words.
Park.
All right, pardon.
Mr. Parrish, I just wanted to say I did get your email, and sorry I didn't reply yet, but he actually addressed everything that I thought he was going to say. So I'm the chair of the Parks and Rec Committee, and I wasn't aware of it either. It happened suddenly, as was explained. We do have a comprehensive park study, so I can share that with you. And we did that in large part so that we can actually go for grants and funding, because that's a requirement in order to get funding for our parks. So we are a very active committee, and we hope to continue to pursue more improvements in our parks. And we welcome you to our committee meetings if you want to share any ideas. We meet on the first Tuesday via Zoom at 4:45, so you're welcome to come anytime. And I will respond and attach the comprehensive study that we did, so you can see what's in there.
Okay, thank you very much.
And then buy, right? And then the third choice that they have is completely outsourcing and buying 100% of our water from LCA in Allentown. So all three of those are very viable options. All three of them can still get us the results that we're seeking. But there is no 100% guarantee from any of the three that it would be 100% removed. They're telling us 99 point something percent removed.
So 2 would get us to good water right away.
There's no right of way in any of those options. So no matter what, if we outsource water, they're looking at us having to dig up at least a mile of our street and putting underground piping in.
Oh, right,
And a pump station would have to be installed somewhere between here and Allentown to get the water pressure, the volume that we need from the city. So there's no, they're telling us that it's going to be about the same amount of time no matter which of the three options Borough Council is to go,
I kind of prefer option 1,
which is,
which is, I think, the option where we just
Pure-
filter our water.
Filter our own.
And that way we own all of our own water and we don't have to worry about water rates from Allentown. And it seems to be the cheaper one. I was kind of wondering why people were kind of leaning towards the hybrid solution. What was the advantage or the disadvantage there?
I guess the advantage is a backup.
yeah, I think the advantage of the hybrid solution, I'm not sure that people were leaning towards it. There were a couple people in the audience that liked the idea. But the option, what it helps you with is we're able to treat our system and have a guaranteed water supply from outside our system at the same time. So if there is an advantage of that, there's 2 sources of water that the borough would have. So if something, let's say something was to happen within the system, you have that flow that you could just increase the amount if you were outsourcing it, or vice versa, right? If something was happening from outside, we could increase the supply from inside the system. So there is that advantage, but there's advantage to all 3 options.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming here. Sure.
Cindy Blair, 115 East Elm Street. I want to know what happens to the backwash. When the treatment system goes, there's backwash.
With the carbon,
And then what happens to that which is contaminated highly? Where's that going?
so there is a backwash. There's the carbon filter that filters it all out. The carbon filter will be disposed of properly.
Yeah, so they explained that in the presentation the other day, and I think, do you see a Lori on this call by chance? Can you possibly unmute her and see if, from Gannett Fleming, she is present. She can speak to that more intelligently than I can. Hi, Lori.
Yeah, so there is limited backwash water with these treatment systems, but it's backwash water that basically rinses the media when you first install it in the filter before it has absorbed any of the contaminants from the water. So generally when you have wells like this that are more remote, you backwash it with water that's already had the PFAS removed, so that water would just go to the same treatment system that other waste would go. It doesn't have the PFAS contaminants in it. After that, you don't normally backwash these anymore until you basically replace the media with new media once again. In terms of the media itself, the highly contaminated media, the stuff that's absorbed all the PFAS from the water, most commonly that's sent for incineration. And the vendors that handle that, it's incinerated under controlled circumstances at high temperatures, and at least the current research shows that basically destroys the PFAS, that incineration process. There is still an option to send the media to landfills. They're still developing science and regulations on that. So, future-wise, I'm not sure where that regulations for that may go, but right now that's a possibility as well. So that's generally the 2 options for disposing of the waste once it's exhausted and you need to replace it.
Is that okay, Sandy?
I guess.
Okay. Anyone else with a public appeal? Now we will unmute our virtual guests, and if anyone online has a personal appeal, please state your name and where you're from and what your appeal is. Now would be the time to do it. Anyone?
Hi, I'm Orpha Kapoor, and my address is 951 Fernwood Street. I am a homeowner, and I would like to just state that I would like to advocate that we select the cleaning of our own wells and not take in water from outside sources. That's the end of my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Orpha. Anyone else on Zoom who would like to make a public appeal? Now would be the time to do it if you have something to say or ask. All right, hearing none.
There's someone that just unmuted.
Oh, okay, we'll give him 1 second. Maybe it took him a while to figure that out. Anybody? Okay, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is community minute. Does anyone on council have a community minute to bring forward? Councilman Anders?
That are in there. Some of the businesses are like CrossFit. There's like 5 different businesses there. They're gonna have food trucks, live music, tour of businesses. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Anyone else with community minute? Councilwoman McMenamin?
Just a reminder that our community yard sale is also that day, June 3rd,
Oh,
from 8 to 12.
thank you. I actually forgot about that. All right. Anybody else?
I wanted to remind everyone to vote tomorrow for the elections. I also wanted to say our pool will be opening soon. Thank you to Ms. Eaton, who has worked very hard with Ms. Reed as well to get things up and running, come up with a lot of great ideas, and to Alan Sylvester, who's been working with the Recreation and Entertainment Commission to make sure that we have well-advertised events, a series of concerts in the park. And that's going to be starting what's it?
Memorial Day weekend,
Yeah.
May 28th.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, thank you for all your work on both all of your efforts, and please encourage everyone to come out to those big events.
All right, under special presentations, we have Alan Sylvester, Recreation and Entertainment Summer Events Update. He's the chairman of the commission.
That is correct. Thank you. Thank you for your time. For those of you who don't know, as I said, my name is Alan Sylvester. I'm a resident of Emmaus, and I chair the Emmaus Entertainment Recreation Commission. I just wanted to come in front of both council and the community. One, to let you guys know, as Shannon just said, that our summer event series is going to start on Memorial Day weekend. For those who might not know in the community, over at Emmaus Community Park, we have free Sunday concerts that run Memorial Day weekend through Labor Day weekend, pretty much almost every Sunday. In addition to those Sunday concerts, we have 6 Tunes in the Triangle this year, which will be downtown at Triangle Park. Those will be on Friday nights, the 2nd and 4th Fridays of June, July, and August. Those run 6:30 to 8:30. A bunch of different groups, all local musicians, everybody loves them. And the exciting thing in partnership with the pool this year is the Flick and Floats that we're going to be doing. So it's in lieu of a family movie night in the park, like on the field, the family movie nights this year will be in the pool. So you can come, the pool will close, we'll have a special, admission for those nights, and we'll have a screen, and you can buy concessions and sit around the pool and watch 3 different movies. So, yeah. Does anybody on council have any questions for me in regards?
Well, I think you're forgetting some of the things that you have with your commission at the Zumba.
Oh yes, true. We do have the Zoom, but we kind of help them do that, but they oversee that themselves. They run that themselves. So yes.
And where can they find this information at?
So the information is on the Borough of Emmaus website under the calendar. It's on our website, which is emmausent.com or org. I can't remember. I think it's com. And also on the Emmaus Arts Commission's website. And then the morning call, Discover Lehigh Valley, all the events calendars, we're on all those.
Did I see, I believe I saw some signs already. Do you
Yep,
have
we have posters
Okay,
around
I thought I
town,
saw them.
signage, yep, there
With
are
all
yard
the
signs.
listings.
Yep, so all of our posters, that all has all the information, so, yes, sir.
I just want to commend you. I'm looking at your sponsor list and these great sponsors who are, I'm not going to say them here, but, because I don't know if it's permitted school, but you have some really great local sponsors who are sponsoring these events so they can be free for the community,
Yeah.
for like the concerts and that. So it's phenomenal to see the support from the community business.
I'm also going to give you a plug that they do need volunteers, so if anybody loves this type of thing, he can use help.
All right, anybody, all the volunteers.
It could be as simple as an hour a week.
Yeah, everything was planned by 3 people, so, just want to put that out there.
Yeah. So, thank you
You're
very much,
welcome.
Alan.
Thank you.
You're doing a great job. All right, moving to the reading of the minutes. We have the May 1st, 2023 meeting minutes. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the reading minutes? Councilman Hart, second by Councilman Dufresne. Any corrections or additions on the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes? I'm sorry. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? There are 7 ayes. Decisions on bids. We have 3 items. The first item is Franklin Street Sanitary Sewer Reconstruction Project. I am going to move that to after executive session, which is the last item on the agenda, due to a legal matter we'll have to discuss before we vote on it. So that will be pushed back on the agenda. We have a dump truck lease. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve a lease for the dump truck?
I think before you make the motion, maybe Mr. Dufresne, and I can speak to it just a little bit. First of all, I sent you a memorandum. There was some confusion in the bids. We got that clarified between the 2 of the banks, which changes my recommendation as to which bank you would award it to. You would award it to Tax Exempt Leasing Corp. They're the lowest bidder. However, what you would need to decide is monthly payments, and whether or not monthly or yearly payments, and whether or not it's a 5 or a 7-year lease. And maybe Mr. Frayne can kind of give some insight as to which one he's thinking as the chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee.
Yes, thanks, Shane. So if you look at just, let's just stick in the 5-year here first. First Columbia and Fulton Bank, when you see payment yearly, that's just their monthly payment times 12. They in this packet here isn't an arrears payment. Tax Exempt gave an arrears yearly payment, so you pay at the end of the year, you got a whole year you pay maintenance for, so it's going to obviously cost a little more if you do it that way. Tax Exempt went back and also gave us their monthly one, which when you take the $39,1488 for the 5-year and multiply that by 12, it comes to $46,978.56 a year. It should be the lowest one because it's the lowest interest rate. So we're not comparing apples to apples because they all give us the similar information. So my recommendation would be to do the 5-year Tax Exempt Leasing Corp at 4.98% with monthly payments. And I would put that in the form of a motion.
Motion by Councilman Dufresne, is there a second? Councilman Hart, is there any questions on the lease? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? There are 7 ayes.
Who was the second one? Sorry, Mark.
There was Chris and then John. Moving on decisions on bids, we have Resolution 2023-19, the sale of the wagon trailer to Jeffrey Kratz for the amount of $1,000. Would somebody like to make a motion to accept that, the bid? Councilman Dufresne, second by Councilwoman Baumgartner. Any discussion?
Is this like a municipal bid?
No. Again, the details of the resolution explain it. Anything valued under $1,000 or less can be outright sold. It would cost me more to do municipal bid than it would be rented. So.
And that's straight from the borough cut. Like there's actual.
Just, thank you.
81402. If you're interested.
Wow.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? There are 7 ayes. Moving on to communications, we have an event request for a Fall Fest at St. Anne's. It's an event that's been going on for probably decades now, and that will be handled by staff. We received a letter of retirement from Police Officer Alfred Kloss. He's been working with the borough for 25 years, and his last day will be May 31st, so we will need a motion to accept his resignation. Councilman Hart, seconded by Councilwoman McManaman. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? There are 7 ayes. And then he'll be retired for like a minute, and then he's going to be requesting that he be part-time. So, would somebody like to make a motion to allow Mr. Kloss to be a part-time officer here in the EMS?
Shane Woman hires him. Shane doesn't hire him for part-time.
Actually, no, because they are civil servant, or because, yeah, no, technically I would, yes.
We should
hire
hire
him.
Our solicitors here, we've got Tim,
I
right?
was gonna say, we should probably amend the agenda to add that on just to be safe. Actually,
It's in his
it's-
role.
So he's allowed to hire part-timers for ambulance, park help, and all that. Does that include the police department?
yes, it would.
Okay, so
I would like to inform you that I've hired Al Kloss as a part-time police officer.
all right. So he's no longer retired. He's semi-retired. All right. We have no borough engineers report, solicitors report.
All of my items are for either under the borough manager's report or executive session.
Thank you.
No report progress.
Unfinished business part 1, we have nothing. New business, we have nothing. Unfinished business part 2, we also have nothing. Does anybody have anything to bring forward that's not on the agenda? All right, hearing none. Madam Mayor's report.
Thank you. In your iPad, you have 3 proclamations. It's proclamation month for me this time. So you have Proclamation 2023-561. It's in recognition of Public Works Week, which is May 21st to the 27th. And the theme this year is Connecting the World Through Public Works. You also have Proclamation 2023-562, which is a proclamation in recognition of Memorial Day, which is on Monday, May 29th. And you also have Proclamation 2023-563 for Emergency Medical Services Week, which is May 21st through the 27th. And this year the theme is EMS, where emergency care begins. With that, I report progress.
Thank you. That leads us to committee reports. Public Works Committee Chairman Enders.
I have nothing for official action, but we meet Wednesday, May 17th at 4 p.m. via Zoom, and with that, I'll report progress.
Thank you. Health, Sanitation, and Codes Committee Chairman Valiant.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, for council's consideration, we have possibly hiring Mr. Eric Furman as our new Codes Department Manager. He has every certification that you could possibly have in Pennsylvania. He's a master code inspector. We would not have to farm out any of our inspections, both commercial and residential anymore, if we would agree to hire him at a $90,000 a year salary, a little bit higher than what we've paid in the past, but again, we wouldn't be farming out the almost $50,000 in outsourced yearly inspections. We'd be able to manage all of that in-house. And I would also note that if council would agree on this, that would be also pending a background check.
Place that in a formal motion.
Yes, sir.
Motion by Councilman Valiant, seconded by Councilman Anders. I might add the actual numbers that we're going to save by not having to outsource. 2 years ago, it was $43,000, and this past year, I believe, this year we're budgeted for $30,000. So that will be incorporated or swallowed up by this $90,000 salary. It's going to save us the money and time probably, because they can do it right away versus waiting for an outside firm to do it. Correct?
He's going to bring a level of professionalism to that department that I think it's been we haven't had in a very long time. We had the whole department sat in on the interviews, and it was a great interview. And I'd also like to thank Roy Mr. Hart could not make the meeting, and Royce sat in, and it was great discussions back and forth.
Thank you.
He's been a code official for a long time, very professional. I think he carries himself the way that we want a code official to carry themselves, and he has his master's certification in codes, which 900 individuals in the United States have that level of certification, which tells you the level of qualifications he has.
So we're extremely lucky to have somebody as talented as him.
Well, and I think he can also help develop other members of that department that have that potential.
All right, any more discussion?
I just wanted to clarify, does he have, who would he report to?
Me,
And does he supervise anyone? Or?
yes. He's going to be the code department manager.
Anybody else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Did everyone say aye? Aye. Those opposed? There are 7 ayes.
Our next meeting will be May 31st at 4:45, and with that, I'll report progress.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation Committee Chairwoman Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no items for official action. Our next meeting will be June 6th via Zoom at 4:45 p.m. You'll see from the notes that we have a lot going on in committee, so we will have action forthcoming, I'm sure. And with that, I'll look for progress.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee Chairman Hart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 3 items for your consideration and action this evening. The first being the Deputy Chief of Police Civil Service certification. When you move into that position, which we elevated into a month ago, you are required, if you are desirous, to pass an oral examination should you wish to have civil service protection. That requires an oral examination given by a member of the community, a chief of police from outside the borough, and a member of the Civil Service Commission. That body met on May 9th and unanimously recommended that we certify him for civil service protection. I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Motion by Councilman Hart. Is there a second? Councilwoman McManaman. Any discussion?
Just real briefly, along with I know that it wasn't in your packet, but he also took a written exam weeks ago. That was the prelude to the oral board. But the oral board is...
So this concludes all his requirements. All right. Terry. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? There are 7 ayes.
Okay, approved vendors for police department pre-hiring testing. This need to change was precipitated by LDHN HealthWorks pulling out of that business, and we added Concerta and St. Luke's Occupational Medicine, which was in before, in addition to 2 vision specialists and 2 psychological evaluation providers. In your packet, I recommend for your approval.
Motion by Councilman Hart to approve the pre-hiring testing for the police department. Seconded by Councilman Valiant. Any questions on the list? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? There are 7 ayes.
Next, Sergeant Kevin Schmidt reached his 1-year probation about tomorrow. And the recommendation by the Chief of Police, Chief Akbar, is that he be moved on to full status. He indicated he's demonstrated excellent leadership skills and that he recommends without reservation he would be moved on to full status. I'll put that in form of a motion.
Motion by Councilman Hart, seconded by Councilman Dufresne. I can't believe it's a year already. It just feels like we just went in there. So anyhow, any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? There are 7 ayes.
The 3 quarterly reports, one of them is combined from police, fire, and EMS, are included in the packet for review. There wasn't anything out of the ordinary that the Public Safety Committee felt needed to act upon. And the report that the next meeting is scheduled for May 25th at 9 a.m. via Zoom. And with that, I'll report progress.
Thank you. General Administration is next. That's myself. We have the PFAS remediation to make a decision on. 2 weeks ago, we had the public hearing and answered questions. Tried to be informative as possible. And we have 3 options on the table. We have our filter our own wells ourselves. We have purchasing water from LCA, or we have the hybrid of a combination of filtering our own wells and having water coming from LCA. Council had a long time to look at this information, and especially the committee who's been dealing with this probably going on 2 years, year with the choices maybe, but engineering studies and everything else that factored into it, including consultants. Tonight, our decision is just to pick one of the direction to go.
Yeah, I would recommend that no matter which of the 3 options you select tonight, just choose the option, let the engineer do his environmental work. So if you were to choose to outsource, for example, I know that they came at you with 3 different locations that the water could come into the town. Don't choose which one.
It still has to figure it out.
If you were to choose the filtration system, don't choose the 12-foot tank or the 10-foot tank or the media bed tonight. I would tell you to allow the engineer to start the preliminary engineering piece on no matter what option you select tonight. Just select the option and let them do their piece that is a little bit more complicated. So I would say choose one of the 3 options, and then the engineer will do the preliminary engineering, and you'll obviously vote on exactly which one of those, whether it's the like the treatment, for example. Is it going to be carbon, or is it going to be the ionization? And I don't think you need to make that decision tonight. You just need to give them a direction and us a direction as to if you're going to treat it or you're going to do a hybrid.
That allows them to go further with the studies and engineering work.
If you were to outsource it, for example, they showed you 3 different ways that it can come into the town. They need to do engineer work to really tell you this is the one that we should do. So I would tell you that you should probably vote on it as the concept versus the precise option.
All right, well, we did all our homework on this and had all the information presented to us. Would somebody like to make a motion? Councilman Dufresne.
I'll make a motion that we choose the option of treatment of all wells.
Motion by Councilman Dufresne, seconded by Councilwoman Baumgartner. Any more discussion, comments? Councilman Hart.
I believe it bears some mention before we simply vote on it. There was a question and a comment from the audience at our last informational session. It went something to the effect, are we going to engage an expert to help us make a decision as to which one to choose? 2 things came to mind when that was said. One, the information presented did come from a very learned and knowledgeable expert engaged by the borough to enlighten us on a very scientifically confusing and expensive solution. One needs to remember about consultants, which I have a great deal of experience with. If you have 10 consultants, you're going to get 14 opinions. They don't have to drink the water or pay taxes in our borough after a single option is chosen and implemented. As difficult as it is, our problem to address is based on the best knowledge we have at the present time for the borough of Emmaus. The second thing that comes to mind upon hearing this question from the audience was the realization that there is no single 100% correct option. I'll repeat that. There is no single 100% foolproof option. Each of the options contain variables, both now and in the future, of potential unforeseen downsides that may make the two that weren't chosen look favorable in hindsight. Know that is a distinct possibility. The good news is that if there is any, is that each option puts us on a path to decrease the levels of PFAS and its dangers to the drinking water for the citizens of our borough. So weighing the options as I see it, number one, purchasing all the water from another municipality or LCA. The potential upside is acceptable PFAS levels of water after expensive infrastructure interfaces. This also has a potential benefit of not having to treat water, or at the very least, spreading the cost of treating water over thousands of additional residences, should high levels of PFAS turn up in the supplying municipality's water. The major downsides are unknown PFAS levels now and in the future. This source, it has us laying additional treatment costs on top of the infrastructure connection. Perhaps more disconcerting with this option is the fact that we would be at the mercy of the cost per gallon charge after the initial contract expires. The second option, the hybrid option of buying some of our water from an outside source and using water from our lowest PFAS wells, this option offers the most variables of potential downside, in my opinion. I repeat, potential downside with the exposure of issues mentioned in option one, along with expensive treatment, even of our lowest PFAS wells, now falling above the allowable PFAS levels. Third and finally, treating our own wells. Expensive, but we have control of the situation. Despite having high levels of PFAS in at least 2 of our wells, I still see our water source as an asset that we have as a continuing resource. Because we are in the early discovery phases of this and in the press with our problem, we are, as I see it, first in line for potential state and federal funds. While I was not in favor of doing our own treatment in the beginning, I am firmly convinced, after deep consideration, that option 3, treating our own water, is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, that was a nice summary, I appreciate that. Anybody else have a comment?
So again, I want to thank the residents again for coming out this meeting and the last one. I wish a lot of you would come out a little more often. We do really appreciate hearing your feedback. You live here too, just like we do. You know, we don't get to see everybody in the community, so I like seeing people in the audience and have their perspective, hear their perspective. So thank you.
I wanted to add to what Councilman Hart and Councilman Green said. It was not an easy decision, and this has been an ongoing issue, and we are residents here definitely wanted to be thorough and thoughtful in our approach and how we responded. Our meeting, our public meeting last time, 2 weeks ago, had a good turnout. Many of you were here and returned tonight. Some of you are joining again on Zoom to this meeting. And I found the discussion on our May 1st meeting really valuable. Everybody had great questions, and it helped us sort through our own thinking, because we're here listening to the same report, trying to process a big decision that's going to affect everybody here, including ourselves. So we appreciate you coming out and taking the time and voicing your concerns and asking questions. And please continue to take part in our community.
Thank you. Anyone else? I would just like to say thank you to the committee, because we've been looking at a lot of this for a long time. And above and beyond what the committee does, we have to thank Shane, and I'm sure Sarah was part of it too, digging in and getting information and providing all the things that are, you've dealt with a lot of stuff that has to be all organized to present to us. So I appreciate all the hard work you put in, and probably had some sleepless nights because I know when the federal government came out, we were at the state level and we were good, and then the federal level came in, and then I know you had some sleepless nights over that because that changed the whole ball game for us. It really did, and anyhow, and thank you to the community because it is important for you to put your voice in and let us know what you're thinking. So with that being said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? There are 7 ayes.
So the next step, we will engage with Gannett Fleming to begin preliminary engineering. Obviously, this was a huge first step. It certainly isn't the last step, so we've got a lot to move forward with. But this allows us to start the engineering. It allows us to start the permit application work. It allows us to start the grant application work as well. So we still have a lot to do, but there was a lot of work to get to that. And DEP will be debriefed later this week regarding the direction that we're going in.
And Shane, a lot of the engineering work needs to be finished before we even apply for the grant, right? Because they need that information from the engineers.
Yeah, we've been clearly informed. We've met with the state on numerous occasions regarding the grants. We have to have the DEP permit in hand to be eligible for the grant money. So the engineer work, the approval by DEP, all that stuff has to be in place prior to the eligibility. But we do feel very good that there is funding that's going to be available, and hopefully a very, very, very large chunk of this upfront cost can be covered in grant money. The federal government released a lot of money to address this issue, specifically for PFAS issues across the nation, and a large chunk of money was dedicated to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to try to address it. So there is money out there. I don't know that we're fortunate, but I think we're fortunate to be ahead of the other municipalities that don't know they have a problem yet. So that's going to put us, closer to the top of the list to be able to get funding.
Thank you. Moving on with general administration, we have the Comcast franchise agreement, which we are not going to take action tonight. There's information there for you to look at. We had 3 general administration committee meetings before our next council meeting, so we will address it at the committee level and bring something forward for you. This is a possibility of a third cable company coming into the borough, and also for internet. So,
if you want, I've been the one negotiating with Comcast.
Sure, if you want to say a few
I
words,
can
go
give
ahead.
a little bit of information and background. I've been speaking with Brian Jarek. He is their representative on this matter. A couple of different documents are available for you to review within your iPads. The first one is the actual Comcast franchise agreement. Shane was very adamant that they make sure that they repair our roads to the fullest extent. Should they do any underground work, that was one of the negotiation points that we've included. When we do move forward with this, if you are so inclined to approve it, I would suggest that you make the approval condition on my final review of the contract. And then secondly, they have attached a second memorandum of understanding in which they'll be providing free internet to certain municipal buildings.
So I had a question on this. It was a term of 5 years. Is the franchise agreement every 5 years, or is the term for the free internet only 5 years and then that's it?
That's still something we're discussing.
Okay, I just wanted to understand. Okay. That's all. Anybody else have a question for Jason? All right. We will meet 9 a.m. on Zoom if the public wants to join us this Thursday, the 18th. And with that, I'll report progress. Budget and Finance Committee Chairman DeFrank.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have 3 items for action tonight. The first one is the bill list, resolution 20.
Oh, I'm sorry. One moment. If anyone wants to still have comments on the PFAS, not too far down the agenda, maybe 10 minutes yet, there is a second appeals if you want to make a comment. So, I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
So we have resolution 2023-18, resolved by Borough Council to authorize the payment of the May 15, 2023 bill list as follows. Bill list $742,514.38. Payroll number 9, $183,386.52. Payroll taxes, $60,398.68, for a total of $986,299.58 done this 15th of May 2023, and I place that in the form of a motion.
Motion by Councilman Dufresne, seconded by Councilman Valiant. Any questions on the bill list? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? There are 7 ayes.
Okay, the next item for action is the pension investment firm. If you remember, put an RFP out a little while ago, and we interviewed 5 today, the Budget and Finance Committee, and most of the members of the pension board were able to interview 5 of the 9 firms that we chose to move forward for a round of interviews with us. And all 5 are quality, capable firms of managing both of our pension funds here, but we are recommending that we appoint Conrad Siegel as our both pension plan,
Pension and non-uniform.
advisors.
Police and
Police
non-uniform.
and non-uniform pension advisors. And I place that in form of motion.
Motion by Councilman Dufresne, is there a second? Councilman Hart? I want to thank the committee and everyone that was there. It was 5 hours of interviews today, and it was a nice day, so I think everyone would have rather have been outside than in a room interviewing.
Oh, it was a nice day outside.
Yes, it was nice day outside. So anyhow, thank you for everyone that participated. And any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? There are 7 ayes.
Okay, and our last item for action is in the form of a motion to hire Engelbrect Financial Advisors LLC to manage our new 401k plan for our pension plan participants.
Correct.
And that's in the form of a motion.
Motion by Councilman Dufresne, second by Councilman Hart. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? There are 7 ayes.
Okay, in the package is significant revenue and expenses for the first half of May. And our next meeting is Thursday, May 18th at 11 a.m. via Zoom, and I report progress.
Thank you. Community Relations Planning and Development Committee, Chairwoman McMahon.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have not had a meeting since our last council meeting, so nothing for official action tonight. Our next meeting is Monday, May 22nd at 4:30 via Zoom. I report progress.
Thank you. Under 17, you have your pension board meeting notes from last Wednesday's meeting. At this time, we have personal appeals part 2, so if anyone would like to make a comment or have an appeal, now would be the time to do it. You just do the same thing, state your name and address.
I can have an appeal, but some of you don't.
Just state your name and your address, please.
Diane Worth, South 2nd Street. Some of you don't talk very loud, but when you got to the part that you said which system you were choosing, I couldn't hear it. Which system did you choose?
We are going to maintain the borough wells with our own with the filtration system.
Okay, so we're staying with our own stuff.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
And we're sorry you can't hear. This is not our normal meeting room.
I know, it's a big room.
And when we get back to Borough Hall, we'll have microphones, but we went to a bigger hall because of the expected crowd, so thank you for bearing with us. Anybody? Anyone else in the audience with a public appeal? Yeah, just state your name and address.
Jessica Jacobs, 717 North 2nd Street. Is there a general timeline for the option you chose? Because we're buying a lot of bottled water for like our little kids to drink, and it's not really in our budget. So I don't know if there's reimbursement for that, or if there's a timeline of how long we're going to have to continue doing that.
Yeah, realistically, probably 2 years because of the length of time for the permitting process.
Is there any way to apply for reimbursement because we're, covering water in addition to
I don't want to sound like
water?
the smart aleck person, but so think about this. If we were to reimburse everybody for bottled water, you're still paying for it anyway, because that cost that we bear is put back on the community.
It's going to be passed on to you.
Yeah, and I guess I'm asking because of having little ones, and the science behind it is, if they're the ones intaking it over the large amount of time, it's going to affect their little bodies. My husband and I are still drinking the water from the town, but we're specifically making sure the food and everything that they intake is bottled. So that's why I'm asking.
I don't know if you were at the meeting 2 weeks ago. Okay, so reverse osmosis, if you want to buy an under-the-counter sink, reverse osmosis removes PFAS. So, and there are systems I saw online for $200. I got one at Costco for $340. And it's reverse osmosis. It takes everything out pretty much. For the most part.
So what we've been told, I can only tell you what we've been told, I'm not a scientist, but you could use reverse osmosis for drinking water. If you're concerned with it being absorbed into the body through showers, etc., you would need to do some kind of carbon filter system, which is much more expensive, because it would go on, when the water comes into the house. But there are, as Mr. Labenberg said, there are systems with reverse osmosis that you can put under the sink for your tap water.
Anybody else with a public appeal in the audience? Hearing none, we're going to go to our virtual guests. We're going to unmute our virtual guests, and if you have an appeal, just please state your name and your address and what your appeal is, and you can turn your video on. Anyone? Now would be the time. All right, hearing none, that brings us to Borough Manager's report.
So we've promoted and hired a number of people. First, we promoted, I would need you to vote to promote Joshua Smale, the firefighter level 2 with EMT. He's completed his certification.
All right, would somebody like to make a motion? Councilman Balliet, seconded by Councilman Anders. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? There are 7 ayes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've hired Savannah Moyer as a lifeguard. That should put us pretty close to full staffing, so that's exciting. Also hired 2 extremely qualified firefighters. Both are veterans, and both are full-time professional firefighters in other communities. The first one is Joshua Green. Joshua comes to us. I believe Joshua is a Reading city firefighter. And then the second individual, Robert Llewellys, is a full-time firefighter in Wilson Borough. Again, both of them are very highly qualified. I'm extremely excited. They've both been firefighters for quite some time. They'll be working for us part-time.
How are we on staff with firefighters?
With those 2 hires, we are pretty close to full staff.
Awesome.
I've also hired Deborah Hoffman as a paratransit driver. Again, extremely excited about Mrs. Hoffman. Her background is in orthopedics and in skilled nursing. So she is not just a van driver. She's also, her previous career was in the skilled healthcare profession. So that is a great asset for an individual to have for that position. So we've also hired her as a paratransit driver. Other than that, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'll report progress.
Thank you. Under President's business, if you haven't already voted, vote tomorrow. We have an early voting these days, so for all I know, everyone of you have voted already. So, we are going to have an executive session to discuss a personnel issue and a legal issue with regard to...
The legal issue with regard to
Contract?
possible deficiencies in bidding. And the personnel issue is in the public works department.
And there will be action taken afterwards?
On the potential legal issue, yes.
Okay, so there is some action to be taken after executive session. Are we going to ask them to leave, or are we going to go to another room?
I think it would be better maybe. Do you have a key to any of the rooms in the back, John?
We can stand in the kitchen. I mean, we can go on the second floor.
Yeah, we can
This
do
is my
that.
chair.
Is anybody going to, well, let's ask this. Is anybody going to stick around and wait for them to vote on the matter? And maybe we'll just ask it that way.
And we will allow the press to ask questions before they have to leave also.
Okay, so just recess.
All right, we're going to recess at 7:09 for an executive session, which we will take action on one matter.
So that was.
And seconded by Councilman Anderson. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? There are 7 ayes. And that leads us to a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Valley, seconded by Councilman Dufresne. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Meeting adjourned at 7:44.